I'm not teaching, I am publicly learning. But hi and welcome to Learning for Life in the UK test part 127, the First World War part 3, by doing leg injury prevention training. If you participate in the leg injury prevention training, that is at your risk. And this is about war, what we are reading. So we already had that at the beginning of the 20th century, Britain was in a state of optimism, and so were many other European countries also. Britain was a thriving country. It had a thriving industry, strong political institutions, and it had an expansive empire, and it had a well-admired navy. And now in these first 40 years of the 20th century, and also at the end of the 19th century, there was all over Europe a growing sense of nationalism and an increased militarism and imperialism. So many other European countries were expanding, were having colonies, and were stocking up their militaries. And it all set the conditions for war, and the other thing that they all built allegiances that started already 30-40 years earlier. That the countries signed together, if you attack them, we're gonna attack you. And the hope was that we're never gonna attack each other because they knew we had to go to war with 3-4 countries directly. But it formed two big groups, sort of around 10 countries or something like that, with similar forces, and so it happened that they went to force because England had a thriving navy, but other countries wanted to also have a thriving navy, and they built their navy up, and they had a growing sense of nationalism and imperialism, and they wanted to be bigger and stronger than the other one, and they don't wanted to peacefully coexist and see the beautiful ships. They wanted to attack the other one, and they wanted to be the strongest, and they wanted to prove that they are the strongest. And so there was many countries, a lot built up for the perfect war, if you want to express it that way. The conflict was centered in Europe, but it was a global war. So I think around there, I read it once through, and now we wanted to go through it in detail. The conflict was centered in Europe, but it was a global war involving nations from around the world. Most fightings were in Central Europe, most in the middle between France and Germany. There were many other battles over Europe, but there was the most fighting. But there was also fighting around the world, everywhere around the globe, in many countries. Britain was part of the Allied powers, so one part were the Allied powers. I don't think they had said the name of the other party, so it might be with the other ones where we are taunt, but I'm not sure if the taunt is even used in English. Britain was part of the Allied powers, so they were the Allied, which included, amongst others, so there were more countries, France, Russia, Japan, Belgium, Serbia, and then later Greek, Italy, Romania, and the United States. So these were many countries which had together were the Allied powers. Britain, that is here, this is what we're talking about here, and then France, here the country, the neighboring country basically to Britain, and then Russia. Here's Europe, and here that is Russia in Europe and Asia. And then Japan is here, so here's Asia, there's Russia, there's India, there's China, and there's Japan. Then Belgium, that is here between France and Germany. And Serbia, that is down here, east of Italy, by Slovenia, that region. And then later Greek, that is even more south, and that's so east of Italy is Greek, as the Mediterranean Sea. And then Italy, a big country which goes into the Mediterranean Sea. And Romania, that is also around there by Slovenia and Serbia. And then the United States, they are here in North America. They have Canada and Mexico and the United States of America. The whole of the British Empire was involved in the conflict. So not just Britain was fighting, and the most fighting took part in Europe, but the whole British Empire. And they're going to say it now here in an example. For example, more than 1 million Indians fought on behalf of Britain in lots of different countries. And around 40,000 were killed. So here's India, and 1 million Indian people from India fought in the war, 40,000 died. Men from West Indies, Africa, let's do some leg injury prevention training. If you participate in it, that is the risk. We're just warming up a little bit. We're breathing in. swinging again. And the last round, breathe in. Perfect. And out. And on the first exercise, having a good standing leg, we're bringing the other leg into the air with a flexed foot and you're swinging it in front to the side. Just let it swing. We're having a flexed foot, and the foot points more or less the whole time in front. This is mostly an exercise for standing leg. It has to balance the movement. And now on the other leg, the leg in the air, and we're swinging it to the side. And the front, side, and front. The foot is flexed and points more or less in front of the side. A few more. And now, a second of these exercises, one foot is in the air, the flexed foot. We're bringing it to the front, back, and front, and quite fast. A few last ones. And now with the other leg in the air, a flexed foot, and you're bringing the foot in front, and back. And now we're done with this exercise in the first round. So how the British Empire was fighting, for example, 1 million people from India and 40,000 people from India died in the First World War. Men from the West Indies, Africa, Australia, New Zealand and Canada also fought with the British. I actually don't know where West Indies is. West Indies. So from Africa, the continent here, people from Australia, continent down under, and New Zealand, that is the island next to somewhere beside Australia. I think it sits in green, this is here. And not from there. And New Zealand, and Canada also, Canada here, north of the United States. They also fought with the British, so many. For example, France, Russia, Japan, Belgium, Serbia, Greek, Italy, Romania, United States, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. So, okay. The Allies fought against the Central Powers. Central Powers is the name here. Okay, the Central Powers. These are mainly Germany, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and later Bulgaria. So mainly Germany, or Germany under the Emperor. It is there in the middle of Europe. Then Austro-Hungarian, that is here Austria and Hungarian, but the borders were not exactly where we are today. And then the Ottoman Empire, that is today's Turkey. And as I said, Turkey didn't exist, what we said here about the Crimean War. The Ottoman Empire, that is basically Turkey today. And then later Bulgaria, that is pretty much where Romania was there. Yes, pretty much where Bulgaria is, so here in Southeast Europe. They fought against them. These were the Central Powers. Millions of people were killed or wounded, so it was a very brutal war. Many people, millions, died. And many people got wounded and were disabled for the rest of their lives. With more than 2 million British casualties, and from Britain 2 million people died, so 2 million people of the United Kingdom died in the First World War. One battle, the British attack on the Somme in July 1916, resulted in about 60,000 British casualties on the first day alone. There was a big battle at the Somme. The Somme is, as far as I know, a river in France. And there was a very big battle between France and Germany. And in the battle, over 1 million people died. And also British troops fought there. The British troops were part of the Allied powers, and the people were coming over to Britain to fight against the Germans mostly. And many British soldiers came to that battle at the Somme, that is a river in France, and fought against the Germans. And at the first day of the attacks, 60,000 British people died on the first day. So 60,000 people died on one day in that battle on the first day, just on the battle. In the whole battle, over 1 million people died at the Somme. The First World War ended at 11 a.m. on the 11th November 1918, and the victory for Britain and its allies. So the allies had won and the Central Powers had lost. It ended on the 11th November 1918. So in 1918, it lasted from 1914 until 1918, the First World War, and it ended November, the 11th month. So the 11th at the 11th month, the 11th day of the 11th month, 1918, and we also made it 11 o'clock. And we're having one picture, soldiers fighting in the trenches during the First World War. It's nothing brutal, nothing shows how impact, but it's the battlefield and the trench war. So people digged in the soil are running out of the trenches.
So here, they are here in the trenches. That is the trenches. The trench is this here. They have the hills, and they are here more or less protected, at least against normal gunfight, but not against gas or shooting. And they are running out to attack the other country. And as soon as they run out,
many of them died. For example, by such attacks on the first day, 60,000 people died. So we were living in these trenches for
weeks, months, or something like that. Then we were often.
Other people came in and they could take some time off, but over 1 million died in the battle, so many did not got the chance to take time off. And as I said, we were a little, but I don't want to get so much into details about that because it just fits the context. So I think you know also the most things. It was fighting like this here and this. Is it at the Somme? No, they don't say if it's at the Somme, but it looked like that at the Somme. The 60,000 British soldiers just died on the first day. They were in these trenches and they were running out of these trenches to attack to the other peoples, but they were not standing just in the open field. You see, these are soldiers fighting. We don't even say what party, but the helmets, these are British soldiers. So they were here and they are running out to attack the other ones. They are 100 meters over there, or 200. The German soldiers in this case. And they are not standing open there on the battlefield, because you don't see them on the photo. They are again just in another trench, 200 meters far off.
And if they run out, they are now no longer protected by this hill.
And the German soldiers are not out there on the open field. They are 200 meters far away, digged in another trench. So they're not running out and fighting, they are running out in an open, barren field, and many of them just get shot down. And when I said we're talking about, they just keep lying there in the mud and bleeding out. They're just running out, they are not running into a battle. They are just running here out of this trench.
Hundreds of people are running just out there.
And middle in the open of like an open football field. No, nothing to hide behind. And the other ones are just 200 meters far away in another trench and so just shooting them all down. So they are just running out openly in machine gun fire. And this is why 60,000 people died just in one morning. And here in the battle, over 1 million people. So basically that is trench war. It's just, and after these British soldiers had run out,
and let's say half of them died, and a few stayed back, or
new ones came from Britain, new people were recruited and came there when we replaced them. And now the Germans were making an attack and hundreds and thousands of Germans were killed. So we're not coming to like injury prevention training. This is the end what we had of the First World War. We will then have, I saw just the intermediate war period and then the Second World War. But I want to end saying one thing. There will come the Second World War and some troubles more. But Britain and Germany are today friends, and also France and Germany are friends today. So Britain, France and Germany and many of these countries which were at war are all friends today. Germany and Britain are today friends, and so are France and Germany. I thank you very much, and until next time.